You are now locked into Radio Juxtapoz, the home of contemporary art and culture conversation. Coming up today.
Women that are on the same journey with me, women that are still trying to find themselves, still trying to liberate themselves from the patriarchal conditioning that they've had. They're on this journey with me and how we kind of found solitude in ourselves.
This is Radio Juxtapoz.
We only recently came across the work of Nigerian artist Chidinma Nnoli, but damn, are we glad we did. At only 22, the young artist has recently opened the doors of her first solo show at the Rele Gallery in Lagos. To Wander Untamed takes us on an autobiographical journey of Chidinma's experience growing up in a deeply conservative and traditional Catholic home in Nigeria. The solemn, expressionless women in her paintings are confined, boxed into the canvas they stare at us, seemingly void of life itself. Through identity, sexuality, and feminism, we begin to find hope in the freedom of self-discovery as her journey continues. You're listening to Radio Juxtapoz, hosted by Evan Preco and myself, Doug Gillen. Every week we bring you new insights into the world of art from those that shape it. Today we are in conversation with Nigerian artist Chidinma Nnoli. Can we have a little spin around?
Yeah, I want to see what we got going on here.
There is nothing in my studio because I just finished this show. I just have like a few really old works, but like everything is out.
How does that feel?
I don't know, because my studio is really small, so I don't know, it just feels a lot more spacious. I feel better now that it's out, having to think about the exhibition was a lot. And now that it's out of the way, I can just having the space to myself is just very freeing now, I can conceptualize without having to look at my older works and, everything that's coming out now is new and fresh, so. Yeah.
Do you find yourself looking at the older works as you're working on new stuff and being and having a conversation with yourself about where you've come from a little bit?
Yeah, sometimes, but at the same time, I try not to look at it too much, so I do not copy some things, that were in the past series. With every work, I just want to get better with my skill and in the way I tell the stories, and just looking back at my older works. I don't think it'll help me move forward during the creative process. So yeah, it feels good knowing that there's nothing to look at, even though I have the pictures on my phone.
It's not quite the same though.
It's not the same.
Does it feel weird then, knowing that you're never going to see that piece of artwork again?
It does. Because I work in, there's a certain type of way I work. When I work, I tell a story. So my exhibitions are usually, I try as much as I can not to divide my paintings, I exhibit them as a set, so with that, I try to tell a story with them. When they leave my studio, it feels like a certain phase of my life, has gone away with those pieces. So yeah, but it still feels nice that people want it though.
This is your first solo show, isn't it?
Yeah, this is my first solo show.
I couldn't believe it when I saw that you were 22. You still 22?
22?
Well, we saw the works initially. I think Doug and I both were just blown away by just how powerful they were, but also, young artists often don't have the depth that these works have already. But as a 22-year-old, they're unbelievable.
Oh, thank you.
and now the conversation's over. There we go.
How long has this show been in the making for?
The conceptualization of the work I started conceptualizing let me say last 2 years, even before I had representation, even before I thought of ever having a solo show. It was inspired by a poem I wrote in 2018. And it just seemed like when I wanted to do a solo show, it just seemed like I just really needed to translate those and the poem I wrote when I was 18, into paintings, So let me just say it started that time, but the creative process and, finding out how I was going to depict these things visually started last year, but the creation of the work started in August. Yeah, haven't done anything else, just creating since August.
How has the idea for the show changed then? Was it always, the title of the show is To Wander Untamed, and was this always the kind of a firm direction and a firm concept for you, or did it start as something else and change?
Yeah, it started as something else because, when I was conceptualizing, I wanted to divide the whole show into a couple of series, into sections. One phase tells the story, then there's a transition into the next one, and they were supposed to have like different titles as the journey, because it's a journey. The whole exhibition is a journey. It's like a coming of age sort of story, I guess. During the creative process, and also talking with my team at Rele, talking about management at Rele, the name kind of changed, But To Wander Untamed was supposed to be the name of a series, at first. But then it just became perfect for the whole exhibition.
Was this a title that you had been sat with for a while? Because you write a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Did
this come from there?
Yes. I wanted to write about being free. It shows in my titles, I guess. There's some sort of, my titles are sort of poetic, I guess, even in the way I paint. I try to have a story, and I don't know, it's sort of like poetry, it's just sort of free flowing like poetry. When I was thinking about what it means to just be liberated, to be free from your conditioning and everything that you have had to grow up with, To Wander just seemed like the right thing. I don't exactly know when Untamed came, but I always had like the word wandering, just to move, to be free. Untamed I don't know, everything just happened organically, I guess.
It's interesting because the title of the show, I had figured that maybe you had gotten that from a poem, and I was one of my questions was if it came from some sort of literature or poem that you had read, but that it's your own is even better. You're actually the second artist from Nigeria that we've spoken to in the last 6 months. That's right, Doug?
Mm-hmm.
Who's the first one?
We spoke with Arinze.
Eh?
Arinze Stanley.
Arinze. He does like the hyper real.
We'll edit this bit out.
Oh, you pronounced it wrong. It's Arinze.
Arinze.
Oh, yeah.
Arinze.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Arinze.
I like that.
All right.
Yeah.
We're like, oh.
Thank you.
You need to move in a group to the hospital. Because why would they protest? Make this guy not go get infection.
In October 2020, a wave of protests across Nigeria erupted in response to the government's Special Anti-Robbery Squad, or SARS, as they're more commonly known. Founded in 1992, the division was established to perform undercover operations to prevent crimes like kidnapping and armed robbery. However, according to the findings of Amnesty International, SARS have been involved in human rights abuses, extortion, and degrading treatment of Nigerians. Amidst the COVID pandemic, the disdain for the service was galvanised after a video emerged of an alleged SARS officer shooting a young boy dead and simply driving off. The biggest clash between the government and protesters came outside the Lekki toll gate, where the police are alleged to have used live ammunition on protesters, and according to Amnesty International, the clash resulted in the death of 12 people. The government, however, deny the use of any live ammunition that day.
The reason why we had that first conversation was the international conversation was about what was going on in the streets of Nigeria. Perhaps I think maybe for other parts of the world, it was one of the. I think we knew some of the things that were going on in Nigeria, but maybe this was the first time we were getting a lot of news about what was happening on the streets of Nigeria. And I'm wondering if anything in the. I mean, you've been living in those conditions for a long time, so maybe for you it's more normal. But did it pivot any of the work at the time that you were making it? Because the show is being made as kind of that. The protests kind of took off.
Yeah, no. I didn't create any work during that time. First of all, I was really sick. during that time. So I wasn't even able to, go be part of any of the protests, but I was actively doing what I could do online. The NSAS protest, I don't think I don't think anybody even planned for it to go, to get as big as it did. It was just one video, and the next thing, everybody is angry and everybody's on the streets, everybody's protesting. There are donations happening here and there, trying to push the protest, trying to, make our voices heard. It wasn't something that was, it wasn't planned. Most of these protests just happen one day and then everybody is done. But it was a turning point for, it was nice to see that young people like me still had hope, we're happy and we're just trying to get things working in Nigeria, but living in this environment has been quite hard. I don't experience these things firsthand because as much as they happen to women, most of the people that are being profiled are guys, for having a good phone, for dyeing their hair, for being on locks, these things, and they think it's crazy, They don't understand the type of professions that we do, so they assume that we are doing it illegally, and then they just stop people on the road and like, let me check your phones, let me see how much money you have in your bank account. It's crazy like that, and they stop you and they withdraw your, and they stop your ATMs and take all your money. It's just crazy. But I'm really the unfortunate thing was the Lekki toll gate. About that, the Lekki toll gate shooting. That was the unfortunate thing about the whole, the shooting. Apart from there were people died, all over Nigeria during these protests. But regardless, it was very, very refreshing to see that, they were still Nigerians, there were still young people that wanted their voices, that was just looking out for, the country to be better. I did not have any hope before, but the protest, really did something. And I just hope, young people just keep putting themselves out there.
How does the temperature feel then at the moment in comparison to how it was at the height of this?
I think people are still scared. There was supposed to be a protest. And protests they're basic human rights, yeah? Protests are basic human rights. But there was supposed to be a protest like last 2 weeks. If they find you just crossing the road, they could arrest you for being around that area where the protest was supposed to be happening. And then they arrested a couple of people and forced them. I don't know. It was sort of like a human sandwich thing that they did, forced up to like 50 people inside a bus. It was quite disgusting to see. And, they tell us every day that we have human rights, and protesting should be your human right, But that wasn't the case because before the day of the protest, there were army vans and just waiting there. So I think people are still scared. I'm scared. I'm not going to lie. I'm scared. I think people are still scared. I think, I'm scared for myself. I'm scared, but most especially, I'm scared for the guys around me because they are the ones that are being profiled the most. I haven't experienced SARS, but I'm an introvert, so maybe that's part of it.
Because you're staying inside all the time.
Because you're staying in your studio. Yeah.
But my sisters go out and they've never experienced it personally. My brothers are still small, but my dad has experienced it before. So it's something, my friends have experienced it before. So it's something I don't want. I want the problem to be solved as soon as possible. Everybody just wants that, literally fighting for our rights to live. It's not a hard thing to ask for.
I'm curious because we're talking about something very like a contemporary thing, something that's happening right now. And yet when I look at your artwork, I'm having a hard time placing what era it is. I can't tell. Are you painting like years past? Are you painting right now? There's such a powerful, almost aged look to the paintings, but I can't tell like where these characters live, like what year, if that matters at all either.
No, it doesn't matter because I'm just talking about my experience and I'm just painting it the way I want to paint it, And I find out that my experience is not limited to any it's not limited to any time zone, It's something because I paint about personal experiences, things that I experience as a woman, growing up in Nigeria, trying to rid myself of Catholic conditioning and patriarchal conditioning. So I find out that these things are not in the next 10 years, women are still going to face these things. Women in the past faced it. Women 50 years ago faced it, So these things are, so I'm not talking about these experiences are, they're happening now, they're contemporary. They happen in the past, they're still going to happen in the future, unless we sort of achieve equality, I guess. Yeah, my paintings are, and I like, it wasn't something that was deliberate. It wasn't something that was deliberate, but I like that. You can't tell the era that these paintings existing. I like that because it wasn't something that was deliberate.
What do you mean by Catholic conditioning?
So I grew up Catholic. A huge part of my work is about growing up Catholic, how I felt in that environment, how, it was sort of stifling. I was almost like I grew up in a box and, I had to get out of the box. That's the whole idea. That was the whole idea behind my solo exhibition to Wander Untamed. So it's basically me breaking out of this conditioning and breaking out of, trying to find myself and, basically trying to rid myself of the fear, the conditioning, and the anxiety that came with existing in this environment.
Did it feel conflicting to be a young person, part of a contemporary, open, very conversational world, trying to fit into a box of that tradition?
Yeah, it wasn't like, I think when I started breaking away from this conditioning was when I went to the university. When I went to secondary school, I was in boarding school, for the most part of my secondary school. And I think that allowed me to exercise some sort of independence, trying to find myself individually. I feel like if I was going to school from home, I would have maintained a huge part of that Catholic experience, still being, growing up in a Catholic environment is kind of strictly indoctrinated. There's this huge indoctrination that's going on and you don't even realize it. Going to school just helped me break away from that, reading books, finding myself within these books, finding myself within the things I write, really helps that.
In your experience, do you think young people there's as many young people following Catholicism as there would have been, in your parents' generation? Is it still as popular and growing, or is it something that's maybe changing and dying out?
Oh, I think it's changing. I think it's changing. It is changing because a lot of people I know, aren't religious anymore. A lot of people I know aren't religious. I feel like a huge part of the way that religion was ingrained or brought to us wasn't really it wasn't in a nice way. It was do this or you go to hell, do that or you.
I think that sounds like the same Catholicism I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
Right. So there was this huge, a lot of people I know, if they aren't religious, they have left the church. They have left Catholic Church because there's a whole lot of indoctrination that is quite unexplainable. There's a lot that you can't pinpoint, and if you're not getting answers in that environment,
right.
You just have to leave.
It's what's interesting too is that I think, because I grew up in a Catholic family as well, and I'm a recovering Catholic in many ways. Catholic imagery and art history over the last like 2,000 years is so tied together to Catholic imagery in particular, especially a lot of the stuff that we are told is important and told is famous. And and Christian storytelling, like a lot of that stuff is built into all the imagery that we see. Do you have to fight against including some of those things in your paintings? Do you want to include some of those things in your paintings? Is it something that what I mean is like the sort of like do those things come into your head a little bit, like the imagery that we've been told forever?
Yeah. Like regardless of how much, I find Catholic imagery, and it's quite interesting to me. I use it in my work. You can see it in the arcs.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
There are areas in my work, that I use like stencils, and you can see the cross, you can see rosaries in my work. You can see, even in the way you can see halos, even the way they are posed, I enjoy how I'm not talking about like the Romanticism era, that was quite extra what they did. But I'm talking about like the Byzantine type of art.
Yeah.
It was very mundane and very laid back and very sort of flat. I find those, that era very, interesting, and it has influenced like a huge part of my work. Like regardless of the fact that a huge part of it is influenced by Catholic imagery, Renaissance, classic, Renaissance art, I still find it very interesting. I love how mundane the figures look. Like they're not really doing anything. They're just flat, just there.
The characters in your paintings in this recent show, they're all facing us as an audience, but what do they see?
That was very deliberate. So I said it's a journey, yeah. The journey is about like you have to look at my work in a sequence. And I should have sent you like a PDF or something, or like a catalog of the works.
No, it's better for us to guess.
Yeah,
It's
we'll just work our way through it this way.
The work is like a journey, because I was describing living in a box and getting out of the box. So some of the paintings you see, I think if you let me describe it. But if you do look at my last Instagram post,
perfect,
you can see that there's this girl in a window, and she's praying and she's looking out. There's this girl, she's looking out at us.
That's a very nice painting.
Thank you. I wanted to depict like a box existing inside the box that was choking you, box that was filled with anxiety. But like I said, I write. So it was inspired by a poem I wrote titled The Box, and how I felt empty and alone inside this box. And it felt really cold, and it felt like I was going to choke. And I just wanted to translate that in my work. In the first, I told you like there are different sections of the series. So I wanted to translate that in the first section of the exhibition. I wanted to depict being in that box, and a window was, the way I could depict that. Like I said, I'm very interested in Catholic imagery. So, the arcs in Catholic church style windows, church windows, it was something that I wanted to also, use to depict that, sort of to just show that religion has been part of the anxiety and the fear, that I felt existing inside that box.
But this feels like, and I hope this is I hope you take this in the right way. It feels like one of the more hopeful of this series, the pink and the window. It feels like there's a little bit more breathing room in this.
Oh my God, yeah. Okay, here's the thing, yeah. Like I said, I wish you saw the catalog before this, but I'm still going to explain it.
Okay.
At the beginning of the paintings, you see that I think there are like 3 paintings. Like it's a journey, The first part of the painting, the figures are in like this room where there aren't any windows. They can't breathe inside this room. So as the painting opens up, I use like windows and doorways to talk about like how there is this liberation happening, and there's more air, finding myself within this environment. Even if like the change isn't happening physically. I still exist in my home. Yeah, the change is happening in my head. So as the painting progresses, as you look at the exhibition, the painting opens up. There are windows, and you can't see anything beyond these windows. Like they're only like skylines. You can't see anything. I just wanted to depict that feeling of air, breathing. Finally allowing yourself to breathe. Finally finding yourself, finding ways to outside this environment, So the next part of the painting, you see that the figures aren't inside this environment anymore. They're now out of the environment. I have found women that are on the same journey with me, women that are still trying to find themselves, still trying to liberate themselves from the patriarchal conditioning that they've had, how society has told them to be. They're on this journey with me, and how we kind of found solitude in ourselves. The story isn't like, it hasn't come to an end. Like I said, it's a journey. I'm still trying to find myself every day. You can't entirely get rid of the conditioning that has been ingrained, in you. The pain, that's not the end of the series. It's still an ongoing series. It's still a journey. I'm still 22, still trying to find myself, still growing, still learning.
But it's rare in a painting. It looks, in particular, because we're talking about this one work, and it's such a nice painting. It feels like the character figured something out, and she's looking out at the audience like I like there's something that she like is like, oh, okay. Like maybe she notices the audience for the first time, or maybe she notices outside for the first time. But that painting feels like the character's like a light bulb went off, and it was like, I'm ready to take like the next step. Or there's a lot of like there's a lot going on in that confident look to the audience, which is what you really conveyed so nicely.
Yeah, thank you. I like that you mentioned that, because the title of the painting is "Did You Sin Today?" Pink walls. So "Did You Sin Today" is how they are, how religion is always probing what you're doing, with finding out, you committed a mortal sin, you did this, you did that. There's always this what I call it, what's the word? It's like you're measuring every step you take. So the figure is kind of looking out and asking you, it's almost like she doesn't care if she sins anymore. She's in this space, and it's sort of, will I call it sarcastic? No, will I call it a rhetoric question? No. It's almost like she's looking at you and with this bored look, and did you sin today? It's almost, what's the word? It's almost like a tired question. You're you're tired of hearing this question. You're just done with everything that's going on, and you're like questioning, did you sin today? She doesn't need a reply. It's just like a, here we go again. Did you sin today?
Yeah.
Would you say that you had quite a traditional, a common experience growing up?
If you grew up in a religious family, yes. Yeah. Especially if you grew up Catholic.
How did you break free from this kind of going down that path to follow in the footsteps of how the patriarchy wanted you to be?
I guess I've always questioned everything. I've always questioned everything. So I don't know when there was a turning point in when I decided to break out. I don't know when that change happened. I've always questioned everything ever since I was small. I was a quiet child. I always, sat down in a place, noticed everything. I always read. And I think most of the books I was interested in didn't match the things I was seeing or experiencing in my house, So I think that was when the change started for me. I would say probably when I was like 10, I guess.
Come on, there had to have been one book, one movie, or one something that got like kind of like triggered in your head. I see you smiling right now. There had to have been something, right? Or like a painting.
I don't think there was a book, but I remembered reading Purple Hibiscus by Chidinma Nnoli. I think I was in primary 5. I think I was like 10. Yeah, I think I was like 10 or 9 when I read that book, Purple Hibiscus. I just felt a huge connection with that book because it explained like at least 80% of the thing I was feeling at that time. You know, it really explained that. And I think I just kind of geared towards books that made me, that, you know, spoke about my experiences and, you know, a lot more than, yeah. But I think the first time I really could put a word or just understand things I was experiencing was when I read that book.
And that where I'm sorry, I can't quite remember the name of the book, but is
Purple Hibiscus?
Is this where the purple comes from?
No, here's the thing. No, it was sort of like a coincidence, yeah.
Okay, because as soon as you said that, I was like, okay, now it makes sense.
Yeah. At some point, I wanted to write music. I wanted to like do music, and you know, I was writing like songs, and I was just writing about my experiences. And then there was this. I think I was in school one time, and I wrote about domestic violence, and just basically how bruises are purple. Yeah, how bruises turn purple, and I talked about like you're not supposed to paint purples on her skin. I remember that line, like, you're not meant to paint purples on her skin. And that was where the purple came from, you know. And purple kind of, for me, purple wasn't about the generic meaning royalty, you know, it meant pain. And, you know, when I wanted to talk about, I think you must have gone like to my old, I had a show last year and it was titled My Name is Purple. And yeah, that was where purple came from. You know, it was basically saying my name is pain.
For you, is that purple something that you display, or is it something that you hide?
No, I tried to hide it. You know, I've not fully come to terms with. I hope I do. You know, as I grow, get more confident with telling my story.
Though it's inhabited by over 250 ethnic groups speaking 500 different languages, today Nigeria is largely split between a Muslim and a Christian population. The Igbo people from the southeast of Nigeria account for roughly 70% of the country's Catholics. As a result of European colonisation in the 19th century, and let's be honest here, British imperialism, the native Udinani religion was overtaken, the Catholic campaign of propaganda more convincing to the Igbo people than its Protestant counterpart. From a global perspective, Christianity in Nigeria remains deeply conservative today. You're listening to Chidinma Nnoli right here on Radio Juxtapoz. There's so much of you in the way that you paint, and then there's the everything from the titles to the snapshots of your writing on your, at least on your online profile on Instagram. And it feels like a very, very personal connection towards you. I wonder how you feel when you're actually in the process of making a painting. Where are you internally?
I feel normal, I guess. I think I've exhausted everything I can, because I write when I'm angry, you know, and the words are really fast. And I think I exhaust a huge part of the emotion in the writing. Then when it comes to the painting, when I want to put that in painting, you know, I just feel calm. It's almost like I'm telling a story. I just want people to know, you know, I just want to talk about my personal experience, put it out there on canvas. And I hope that once people just look at it, you know, they can tell without having to ask me. You know, I think that's my goal, to know, at least guess to a certain extent what the paintings are saying without having to ask me, the artist.
You don't paint angry.
No, I don't paint angry.
Is that something that's just not possible for you? or is it something that it's just like it's kind of not where you're at when you're angry?
I don't. No, that's not where I'm at. But I don't think I feel angry. My hand shakes when I'm angry, so I can't do any work when I'm angry.
All right. Okay.
Does your relationship then with the piece, because of that personal connection and the way that the experience that you're talking about, does your relationship then change to a painting once it's complete?
No, I just feel relieved. I just feel from the moment I started, I'm like, how, like I said, I like people to know from the very beginning. I want people to be able to tell at least, to a certain extent, the story, So when I start the painting, I'm like, how do I let people know? How do I let them? I think it's how do I let them know? How do I without having to ask me? I want this to be almost like they're reading a book, And that's how I want it to be. And like I said, I like exhibiting my works as a set. I don't like exhibiting one or two pieces there. I like them, because the story I'm trying to tell, and I want everyone to see that, understand that, So when I'm done with the painting, I'm like, I know I'm done when I look at the work and I see that, without having to read anything, you can tell to a certain extent what it means. Yeah. I try not to give away too much. At the same time, I try not to give away too much, that might cluster the painting. You still have to follow principles of art, and regardless of how much you're trying not to follow, elements and principles, of art when you create, you still have to do that.
I was just thinking there's a bunch of curators right now who just heard that you like to show work in a full set, and they're like, okay, note. They just made a note. They're going to ask you for a solo show. Don't worry about it. Who are some of your favorite painters of the moment?
It's weird, yeah. When I think about the artists I like, they are not entirely figurative, and it makes me question why I'm even a figurative artist. I think one of the artists I like in Nigeria, two girls I like in Nigeria, two female artists I like in Nigeria, Inyola Sanyaolu. She's a new artist like me, young like me. Yadi Chima is another one. She's an amazing artist. She's an amazing artist. But I love Cecily Brown. And I was in a show. It was sick to find out, that I was in a show with her in January. It was it was crazy to find out. It was crazy because I've always liked her work. And I look at a lot of abstract expressionist artists, and I've always liked experiments. And that's why you can see that I'm trying to do that with how random and texturized my backgrounds are.
Mm-hmm.
They're not fine. They're not fine lines. They're not flat, lines. I try to bring out that side, when I'm painting the backgrounds, with palette knives and, just doing my thing. But yeah, I really like Iyola Sanyaolu's work, Yadi Chima, Ukohakalu, Cecily Brown. I like Toyin Oji Odutola a lot. She is huge on storytelling, not because she's a figurative artist or because she's a Black artist. She tells just the way she's big on storytelling.
Yeah, she's got this whole world that she's
Because I'm also about creating the figures that my paintings are not necessarily the places that they exist in, the places that they are in, that I situate them in, they don't exist. I don't think any place looks like that, I try to create this dreamlike environment for my figures, and regardless of them being personal stories, I try to imagine the environment, that I want to put them in. They exist. There's so much pain around their existence. I want to take them away from the regular environment and put them in sort of a utopia. That's why you have They look almost dreamlike, I guess, almost, with the flowers, skies, the bright colors. There's so much going on around. So yeah, Tony is amazing.
Doug, this is an interesting trend. We've had a couple, I think Kahari was talking about this too, but like figurative painters who like are actually more moved by abstraction in a way.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting thing that we've been
kind of
experiencing.
reluctantly going in.
I did not know that. Yeah, the first time I really was moved to looking at other abstract expressionist artists was when I saw these large scale paintings by Larry Poems. Like these huge, large scale paintings, they looked almost like a John Michel type painting, not his earlier works, the ones that he created, later on in his career. And it just had so much pinks and so much blues and so much yellows in them. They looked like they were flowers. If you look at them from far, they look like, they were like a cluster of flowers, and I like flowers in my work a lot. That was what moved me, and I started looking at other abstract expressionist artists, and it was quite an interesting movement. It's weird.
When did art come into your life then?
I started drawing when I was small, when I was little. But I thought, at some point I was more interested in designing motifs, creating patterns. So I wanted to study textile design in school. I went to art school. I studied fine and applied arts. I wanted to do textile design. I got into school and I just found out that painting was I was big on expressing myself, and textile, at least the textile department in my school didn't have the facilities for me to push, that I feel like there's a lot you can do with painting, you can push the limits of your creativity with painting, but the facilities in my school at that time didn't have the facilities for you to be able to push your your level of creativity, it was just the same thing. So when it was time for me to major, I just tried to go into painting. And I think YouTube helped. When I saw a couple of paintings here and there, I just went on YouTube, watching a lot. And then I think the first time, I saw The Price of Everything. Okay. That HBO documentary. That was a turning point for me. That was when I started like reading, and I was so into Larry Poems when I watched that video. I think he was the artist that stood out for me in the entire documentary. That was when I delved into the world of like abstract expressionism and just looking at artists, and their works moved me much more than I expected. I was used to painting traditional figures. It was something that my school pushed. The school I went to, the art school I went to, they pushed figurative art more than they did anything else.
Why do you think? Why do you think they pushed figurative art? Is there a deeper history or connection to figurative art in was that in Lagos?
No, it wasn't Lagos.
No.
It was in Benin.
Doug, the Catholics don't do abstraction.
But it wasn't a Catholic. I don't think it was a Catholic university.
I don't know. I just assumed.
It was a Catholic university.
You're broken free by this point.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Catholics still don't do abstraction though.
So, with my school, you had to be like true to representation. You had to like paint the human being the way a human being looked like, paint the chair the way a chair looked like, the colors, what the colors looked like. There wasn't room to like explore, other forms of art. But yeah, so I had to do all that when I graduated from the university. YouTube helped, watching documentaries helped, watching artists talk about their works on YouTube. It just gave me a sense of direction, in navigating my own art. And yeah, I think I've done a good job so far, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been
Absolutely.
painting. You've been painting professionally for like 3 years or something like that, haven't you?
Yeah, 2018.
Not bad.
Yeah, I graduated. Yeah.
Who is Ekizona, and how is she different to Chidinma?
Okay, Echezona means never forget. So that's my mom's surname, and I wanted a part of her, with me. So that's I signed my poems as Echezona. Echezona.
I nearly made it out of that without getting
Yeah.
Echezona.
Yeah, say that again.
Echezona.
All right, I tried.
It's good, Doug. I was like, oh, he got that. All right, nice.
So does it feel like? Do you feel like a different person when you're writing under that moniker, under that name?
I said I'm angrier when I write, and then when I paint, there's this calm. So I feel like there are two different emotions when I do both things,
So it was never an option to paint under the name Ekizona,
It was an option at some point.
but it didn't feel right.
Nah. It was an option at some point. And I just wanted like just one name. And I was like, you know what? Nah.
Well, if you get into your abstract expression stage, you could use a different name. I don't know.
Maybe. Let's see how that goes.
I think you're doing quite well with your painting career under this name at the moment.
What's the experience of being a young feminist in Nigeria?
There's also backlash that comes with it. Especially like on social media, there's a lot of backlash. And I feel like talking online doesn't really help. Like typing, you can't read emotions of typing, So there are certain things you say and people assume that you're angry or bitter or you're shouting at them with your words, and it's just different. There's a lot of backlash that comes with it. It's almost as if the title feminist is a slur. It's almost like it's derogatory. I feel like a couple of Nigerian men even like gave feminist a name. They called us a coven of which so being a feminist in Nigeria is quite hard, but every day we try. We try every day to still be true to that title. It's literally just equality. We want to be treated fairly, and the gender laws in Nigeria do not help women at all. Women are still largely marginalized. Women are still, largely victims of domestic violence, victims of, sexual harassment. And, nothing is being done about these things. It's almost like you're complaining too much. But I mean, I experience these things every day. Women experience these things every day. We have a right to talk about these experiences, I don't think it's too much to talk about this. If I always say this, if you think it's bad, if you think sexual harassment is bad, it's probably like 10 times or 100 times worse, out there. If you think the rate of sexual harassment or the rate of domestic violence is, high in Nigeria, multiply how much you think it is, multiply by 10, and it's a lot worse than you can imagine. Lagos is quite progressive to a certain extent. There's a huge underdeveloped there's an uneven distribution of development everywhere else. So Lagos is quite, to an extent, progressive. So I can't imagine how much, how less progressive these other states are. It must be really bad in other states when you talk about like religious laws, traditional laws. But every day I try to stay true to that name, to being a feminist, to standing up for what I believe every single day. I do that in my work. I do that with what I say online, what I put out online. I just try to stay true to that word every day.
Now, I mean, it's obviously like it's an issue in every country. It's not just Nigeria. Do you see promise in the younger generation, people around your age, and the conversations that are being had? Because a lot of it has to do with how young men start thinking about these things as well. And have you seen any progress that feels like maybe the conversation is coming better? Oh, wait, okay. With that kind of laugh, I feel like maybe not.
Okay. I don't think so, honestly.
Okay. No, that's thank you.
There are men who are, learning, trying to be better, joining the conversation. But a huge percentage, just think women are asking for too much, a huge. So I don't think so. I don't think the amount of men who are joining these conversations are enough to cause change, because a lot of the people who are interested in these conversations are not people who are in government that can make changes legally, It's not enough that there are conversations happening online. There are conversations happening online, that's good. The conversation happening online can change individuals, but it's not enough if there are not laws that protect women. And if, the people in government do not think that we deserve equal rights, we need people in government who are feminists, who believe in equality, first of all, to be able to push for change. We don't have that yet. I don't think we do.
Who are or were some of the untamed women in your life?
Oh, the untamed women in my life.
Yeah, the ones that were trying to get you to follow your own path. And
like I said, most of the change happened in my head, in books that I read. Then I found a sense of community with women online, with women online who were just living. I told you I don't go out, but the few times that I do go out, I have friends, who are on the same journey with me, my sister, because I have 4 sisters, my sisters, they're on this journey with me, my friends are on this journey with me. And I kind of live off the confidence of the women I see online. It's amazing, how confident they are, and they're trying to make their voices heard. I'm trying to live off their confidence and also make my voice heard. It's an amazing thing, because you don't know how much people are looking up to you. You don't know how much people you're inspiring with your voice. And, a lot of feminists online do that for me. I live off their confidence. I live off how loud they are and how proud they are, being a woman, be living free, living outside the status quo. Yeah.
If you haven't already, be sure to give Chidinma a follow over on her Instagram. We expect nothing but success for her in the future, and we look forward to following her on that journey. We'll be back with you guys real soon. Till then, take care of yourselves and each other. Peace.